turn my camera on so you can see who's speaking. So, very excited to be here with you today. I'm Maureen Khouri, the Business Group Manager for Business Applications and Power Platform in the UAE. So, you may know that as BG Lead, which is basically strategy, development, and go-to-market for the whole suite of products. And I'm so excited to be here with you today because really there is a fantastic opportunity for you to capitalize on in the UAE market. And it's a launch that we're super excited about, that Reddington and Boom Bam is bringing to the UAE. And I think being the first partner or the first group of partners to take this on will really be able to profit in a very big way. So let's get started into some of the strategy and momentum just to set the stage, and then I'm going to pass it over to Robert, who's really going to be able to give you details on the opportunity. So how Microsoft is seeing the industry trends, the market. We already know that 94% of the organizations in UAE are considered small, medium-sized businesses. It's a massive market opportunity. And a lot of them are using a cloud application already, but given the COVID situation, given the need to be agile, given the remote work, a lot of these organizations are looking for new tools, right? They're looking for a way for them to manage this situation. The buyers are online. Yeah, 67% of the buyer's journey now is online, right? So imagine as an organization, how are they dealing with this today? So they're looking around, they're looking for something to solve their problem. And the market size is massive when it comes to business applications. There is no customer out there that does not need some type of accounting or finance solution. Could be Excel, could be Sage, could be QuickBooks, could be Tally, but they need something to run the financials of their business, right? So it's a matter of getting in front of customers and capturing this massive market opportunity. When you zoom in on SaaS market opportunity specifically for the number of employees that we look at, if you look at the 10 to 99 number of employees and you look at the ERP portion, you can see the massive opportunity in the ERP market. And if you even add the accounting piece, which can be considered obviously part of the back office solution, it's just massive. So this is probably the target market that you would be working in. You would be joining an ecosystem. For those of you who are not already working in business applications from Microsoft, you need to know that the ecosystem is massive, right? There's 16% growth in partners that are saying, I need to sign up to this. I'm not making enough profit on my Office 365 or Teams business. It's becoming a commodity. I need to start providing more of a service to my customers, right? There's a 36% growth in $1 million deal. So imagine these deals can actually be quite large potentially. And then the increase in the number of revenue per partner, of partners selling the Dynamics portfolio, right? If you see, there's more than 6,000 partners today that are selling Dynamics 365. Many of you probably did not know the number was that high. And then, of course, when you add the Power Apps piece, which is the extension to our solution, then you start really opening up massive potential at your customer site and application development and business process automation. So Business Central is the core of what we're looking to go to market with. And if you're not aware, it is basically Navision became Nav in the cloud. So it's the on-prem solution in the cloud. And it's basically an all-in-one back office system, right? With a little bit of a mini CRM, you can say. So all the financial management of the company is there. operations of that company, including supply chain management and inventory. Okay, it has project management in case there is an organization that is a project-based organization like engineering, construction, can be architecture, and so on. And a mini CRM, as I said, for the sales and service. So this is really, and of course you cannot forget the reporting and analytics, which can be the embedded Power BI, can be Power BI Pro, but all of the dashboards sitting on top of the most important data within an organization is the back office operations. So you are getting into the core of your customer's business. And of course, you see the Power Platform, which underpins all of this. This is how we say Business Central manages your financials better, helps with your supply chain. Today, supply chain disruption is a big topic with your customers, and making sure that your projects are on time. This is what some of our partners are saying. Dynamics is in the lifeblood of everything we do. It's the beating heart of our clients' customer experience. So it is the core, right? It is the way to help them stay ahead of competition. So you are enabling your customers to actually grow in an uncertain economic environment. And just to sum this all up before I pass it to Robert, right? Your success in cloud is our goal. So today is the start, hopefully the launch of a long-term relationship with you that allows you to actually use the Boom Bam offering as a starting point. It provides them end-to-end support if needed. It's in a packaged offering, which is amazing for any customer looking for these various modules. And then you can add additional workloads on there. You can sell more teams because you're within more of the organization. You can add data and AI capabilities on top of the business application, the security opportunities, and of course, there's many other upsell and cross-sell opportunities. So in summary, I would say, leverage your existing relationships and technology in your practice, okay? Take advantage of this opportunity in front of you to understand your customers' business challenges better. And then you expand your offering by providing the solution to allow you to expand in the account and really be seen as a trusted advisor with your in your customers. And by the way, if you're not doing this with your customer base, somebody else will be, right? Our competitors, other technology vendors will be approaching your customers with some type of business application. And if they're already using something, do not assume that they are happy with it, right? So explore a partnership with Boom Bam ISV. You'll get the pre-sales and sales support. You'll get fixed pricing for implementation, right? And you'll get advantage of the massive partner incentives that come with business applications as well. That's really all I have for you today. Any questions before I pass it on to Robert so you can finally see the exciting offering we have for you today? You can put it in the chat window if you're shy, no problem. All right, so I will pass it on over to Robert. Very excited to introduce Robert Pope to you from Boom Bam. Over to you, Robert.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you see the slides okay? Yeah, cool. And you hopefully can see me at the bottom of the screen. So firstly, thank you to the Microsoft team, to Maureen and to the Reddington team for the kind invitation to speak today. You can probably guess from my accent that I'm not in UAE currently. In fact, UAE was the last place I was in before lockdown. I'm actually in the UK. My wife used to live in the UAE working for Emirates. So I do have quite a lot of exposure to your country. And to be honest, I very much prefer the weather there to the weather that we have currently in England. So I'd much prefer to be there presenting this in person rather than over Teams, but that's the world we live in today. I'm going to spend the next sort of half an hour or so covering a number of subjects. And the key part that I'll start with is really the why, and give you then a bit of an introduction into a bit more background as to who we are, what we do as an organization, where we've come from, and fundamentally how the market opportunity around Dynamics has changed significantly in the last couple of years with the launch of Business Central. So just kind of to kick things off, I'll also try and keep an eye on Teams for any questions. If anybody wants to put anything into the instant messaging window, apologies if I miss anything. I will make sure I check at the end, but feel free to pop questions in the IM window, and I'll try and keep an eye on it, as I said. So the key thrust of today's session, really, and to kind of kick things off, is really when I look at the opportunity around Dynamics, it's a twofold opportunity. One of them is the way that you can position Dynamics to your end customers as partners. As partners, your customers, the features and functionality that Business Central now delivers is streets ahead of the competition. And there are lots of reasons why that's come about, and lots of reasons why that has a significant impact now, particularly in the COVID world, but also in the world of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and cognitive services. So the actual messaging around Business Central and how that lands with your end customers is one part of the equation. And to be honest, I'm not going to particularly cover that today. Actually, the bit I'm going to cover today is why you as partners should add Dynamics to your portfolio. And actually, the fundamental kind of quickest and easiest way to describe that is it's cold hard cash. And broadly speaking, for every pound or dollar or dirham that you are currently making as margin on Office 365, that would equate to £8, dollars or dirham in Dynamics. And I'll unpick that for you in a moment or two, but I think it's fair to say that Dynamics, and particularly Business Central, is arguably one of the biggest white spaces in the market, in the cloud market, in the Microsoft ecosystem to date. With lots of organizations, less than 0.05% of Office 365 customers currently using Dynamics, but having the opportunity to add it to their subscription and add it to their own user portfolio of Microsoft technology. Never has the story of the stack been stronger. But I'm also acutely aware that Dynamics is often historically being seen, and fundamentally actually ERP and finance has been seen as a little bit hard, a little bit difficult, a little bit maybe outside of the comfort zone of the conversation of a Office, Microsoft, or Azure partner. It's talking to the business, it's talking to accountants. Fundamentally, it's often not talking to IT. So how we help with that is to really kind of make that a very simple conversation. We can help you leverage your conversations within the organization and turn that conversation from an IT-led conversation to a business-led conversation. But I'll unpick that in a bit more detail and give you a bit of background as we progress. So the key part of this is really around partnering. And just as a way of introduction to myself, my name's Robert Pope, as Maureen said. I work for an organization called Boom Cloud. We actually rebranded literally on Monday of this week. We've been around for about 170 years in the UK. We're historically an accounting organisation. We also built a structure which allows us to take that knowledge and share it. Our model has shifted considerably to working with end customers and building our own customer base, to building solutions that can be sold at scale by people who aren't Dynamics experts, but give you the capability to position Dynamics to your end customers. But I thought I'd then just go a bit more into the why. Why is it relevant to you as partners today? And also, why is it relevant to your end customers? Now, part of my background, as well as being at Boom Cloud for the last year, was I worked at Microsoft UK for about 5 years, where I was heavily involved in Dynamics SMB. I saw Business Central go through the transition from being Dynamics NAV into Business Central, its incubation as a cloud platform, and now it's go big. One of the other big parts that's happened within Microsoft over the last couple of years is this mainstreaming of Dynamics. Dynamics is now the third service on the cloud, or the third cloud, depending on how you want to position it. And when we look at how an organization operates, how every single SMB works, there's a requirement for Dynamics type solutions within that organization. And it's an area, as I said at the beginning, that is currently underserved within those Office 365 customers, and obviously then subsequently within that partner ecosystem. And if we look at Microsoft's ambition with regards to how to help partners and help demonstrate this to end customers, we often use this analogy of rooms of the house. And when we talk about this, it's really breaking that down into two levels, ground floor and first floor. When we talk about where you as partners currently operate, predominantly in modern workplace, and also potentially in applications and infrastructure, or Azure, as you would more likely know it under that name. But the other key rooms that are in that business, in that SMB, they all have this requirement, as I said, for business applications, but also for data and AI. Now, when you raise up and talk about digital transformation, about how those businesses are going to transform, how they're going to change the way that they operate, how they're going to adapt, Microsoft uses 4 key messaging pillars to talk about that. How's an organization going to empower their employees? How are you as a partner going to help them do that? How are they going to engage their customers? How are they going to talk to their customers and know who bought what, how much they paid for it? Can I sell them some more? How am I going to help that partner, that end customer, optimize their operations, be more efficient, collect cash more effectively, be more efficient in how they produce whatever it is that they do as an organization? But also, how are they going to help? How are you as a partner going to help them transform their products, transform their business? We've seen COVID accelerate that across the world. Organizations having to move from not being able to have people in their shop or restaurant or bar, moving to click to collect, for example, changing businesses overnight to online businesses with limited exposure to face-to-face transactions. All of this is powered by technology, and all of this is powered by Microsoft technology. And this key strength here is that Microsoft have solutions in every room of the house, but often many of the partners, many of people like yourselves, are only playing in 2, maybe even 1 of those rooms, modern workplace and applications and infrastructure. And we know that as we talk about what we would call the halo products, the things that are kind of seen as groundbreaking, AI, machine learning, cognitive services, all the cool stuff, basically, all the kind of things that make an interesting conversation with a customer with regards to how they're going to change their business into the future, how they're going to use AI to help their business. Now, there's 2 aspects to this. One is Microsoft has democratized that AI machine learning. A lot of the functionality in Business Central, the reason it stands above the rest of the market is not because of its capabilities from an accounting perspective. In many circumstances, arguably, you could buy almost any accounting platform and they would all serve a job because they are legally and fiscally restricted and they have to hit certain points of functionality. What makes the difference is AI, machine learning, cognitive services, and the innovation that Microsoft has brought to the table, which fundamentally changes how a business can use a tool like Business Central, how they can process orders using AI to do that. Now, that's not because Microsoft is a ERP or accounting vendor specifically. That's because Microsoft's a hyperscale global cloud provider. And off the back of that, it allows Microsoft to develop tooling, not just for Business Central or for Dynamics or even for Office 365, but that also works in Xbox, works in Skype for Business, works in the consumer space. That investment in understanding and creating AI machine learning tool sets, digital twins, is something that other ERP vendors can't do. They don't have that scale. They don't have those components within their own ecosystem. But fundamentally, when we start to talk about all of those cool things, we come back to this underlying principle. Data's the new oil. Being able to use and manage that data, being able to use that data effectively is what feeds AI and machine learning. But fundamentally, if you don't have the data in the first place, you can't do the cool stuff. So when we start to look at an organization at an SMB level who wants to do Power BI, who wants to do interesting things with their data using AI and machine learning, if they then resort back to an on-premise version of Sage, for example, that kind of ruins the whole pitch right from the get-go. If you can't get access easily to who bought what, how much they paid for it, can we sell them some more, what was the weather like on the day they bought it, what's it going to be like in a week's time, then all of those pieces then fall apart very quickly. But when we start to look also then at the market opportunity, now the numbers here are worldwide, the dollars are billions, and obviously the numbers of dollars is actually immaterial to all of us if we're being brutally honest. What's more important is the percentage. If you're an Office 365 partner, an M365 partner, an Azure partner, you're basically playing in the modern work and applications room of the house. You're addressing, in effect, 60% of the spend of that customer. The other 40% is on the table. The other 40% of their IT spend, those SMBs, 40% of their spend is on ERP. it's on accounting, it's on things like business applications and data and AI. Now, fundamentally, one of the things that we've done, and a lot of this work that I did whilst I was at Microsoft, was really kind of looking at this from your perspective. Now, broadly speaking, I know that realistically, you're all looking at Dynamics thinking, well, it's still quite hard and it's still a bit complicated and it's perhaps a little bit outside my comfort zone. But actually, if we look at what I think and what we recognize you really want to do, and to a certain extent Microsoft does, is we want to position Azure a modern workplace. That's your comfort zone. But if I look at Dynamics and how we make this easy for you to sell it, the impact that it will have on your existing business, these figures were taken from the SMB customer base across the UK, but broadly speaking, the figures are representative across the world. So firstly, Azure penetration is 10 times greater in Dynamics 365 customers than it is in Office 365 customers. If the customer has already got Azure, Dynamics will double that Azure spend. And it's quite easy to understand that. Dynamics has gravity for data. It pulls data towards it. If you have look at a typical SMB business where they use something like Sage, they will also have ancillary systems in their organization that currently sit alongside it. As soon as you rip out Sage or QuickBooks and put it on the cloud, put it onto Microsoft, other things very quickly follow. It also drives Power BI type conversations, data conversations, which will then grow that Azure spend. The other thing that's worth thinking about is stickiness. The stickiness part of Dynamics is very much around the fact that Dynamics is incredibly sticky, less than 6% churn. Most organizations will stay on Dynamics for at least 5 years before they upgrade, many of them over 10. But also that's something that makes that stickiness to the partner very strong. And I think it's fair to say that if you look at it from Microsoft's perspective, and Maureen, perhaps close your ears, Microsoft aren't overly concerned about churn. Microsoft are concerned, obviously, because of the impact on the customer experience. But broadly speaking, if the customer moves from one partner to another partner, Microsoft's still got a customer. It's just it's coming from a different place. But for you as partners, how do you hold on to your customers? Being able to differentiate, that's a big deal. When we look at partners that we work with extensively in the US and the UK, many Office 365 partners have got churn even up to 15, 20%. So being able to add Dynamics then really has a massive impact on that churn figure. And I thought I'll double down on this and really start to, for want of better words, show you some money. Now, this you have to take with an element of a pinch of salt to some extent, just to kind of see where it's coming from. The fundamental piece of what I'm going to run through you now is not necessarily about the dollars, it's about the ratios, as in what the ratio spend is between each workload. And if we talk about the mid-market, so 25 to 300 employee businesses. Now, I realize that we actually go a little bit further down that in SMB, we would probably consider more than kind of 10 employees as SMB, but this is a data set that we can work with. If we look at the average spend of those customers on each workload, and if I said that that customer was spending $1,000 a month, we would expect on Dynamics, we would expect that customer to be spending $460 a month on Office 365. So in effect, Dynamics, when it's sold into a customer, represents 2.17 or 2, let's call it a round number, 2 times the spend. So Dynamics is a high value, high cost SKU to those end customers for them to start to consume it. But when you then start to drill that down even further and start to look how margin rich Dynamics is, if for that same spend, $1,000 a month for 12 months, then I can start to look at what the average margin is. Now, you have to be kind of slightly careful around these numbers. And again, as I said, it's round numbers rather than necessarily the exact detail. It's often quite difficult to get to the full picture of exact what the margin is because there are a number of things that go into it. It's very rarely just a straight line percentage. Often there are rebates, there's potentially new customer ads incentives that roll in. And you have to kind of take a look at it in the round and kind of look at what that number is. But broadly speaking, for a contract worth $12,000, $1,000 a month, you would expect to take around $3,720 in margin for Dynamics, $1,680 for Azure, $980 for Office. So if we start to kind of go back to that number that I said right at the very beginning, for every dollar that you're making in Office 365, that would equate to around 8, just above 8 actually in this example, in Dynamics. That means it's a hugely lucrative workload. It's a hugely lucrative solution for you to build into your ecosystem and into your portfolio. So I thought I'd just give you a bit more about who we are and how we do it and kind of explain how we can help. And I think there's a number of key things I know that are going to be in the back of your mind with regards to how this all works. So just to give you a bit of credibility as to who we are. So firstly, as I said, I worked at Microsoft for 5 years in the UK. I worked very closely with Boom Cloud, or Cooper Parry IT as they were known, along with a lot of other partners. I worked with people like Maureen during that period at Microsoft. During that period, Boom Cloud became, in 2019, the worldwide winner from Microsoft for Business Central, the finalists last year in 2020, the first time any partner had ever been in that award 2 years consecutively. We are also in the inner circle, which is the top 0.5% of Dynamics partners worldwide. And myself and colleagues sit on the Partner Advisory Council for Business Central, which really guides the way that Business Central is being evolved and allows us a direct input into the development of Business Central. Because broadly speaking, the approach that we take to delivery means that we deliver to lots of customers, hundreds of customers. And therefore, we've got a lot of experience of actually the sharp end of how to deploy Dynamics, and also fundamentally what's happening in the SMB market space. And a lot of that is really transitioning and feeling, to a certain extent, the pain, but also the opportunities that COVID has brought to the world. So what do we do as an organization? We make the best Microsoft cloud technology simple to implement, effective and accessible to any size organization so they can innovate and transform. That's really about us helping. Our view is this is about helping them grow strong and fast, about helping them leverage technology, but we make it simple. And I think when I go back to that reason that many of you have maybe shied away from accounting or ERP or finance or Dynamics solutions in the past is it's too complicated. It was difficult to license. It was difficult to understand what it did, how it worked, or how you could sell it. And that's where we unpick that. So we do this by disrupting professional services. We don't do day rate. We don't have a concept of doing a day's work. We deliver fixed price, fixed outcome. We'll tell you exactly what you're getting, exactly what it does, and fundamentally what it doesn't do. And we will deliver everything that you need within that package. And the packages are a bit like Lego bricks, and I'll go through some just to give you examples in a moment or two. But it very much simplifies that procurement process, that buying process by the end customer, but also the sales process. In effect, allowing your sellers to position something to an end customer without necessarily fully understanding what it is, but it allows the end customer, who arguably will know what they want, to understand and think, actually, yes, I want these packages. I think just to kind of finish that off, then we also do some of the other Microsoft Cloud solutions wrapped around it. One of the key things that we see in organizations is that we also find that there's often a requirement to help and support some of the security offerings that are already in place with Microsoft, because as organizations move their accounting and ERP solution to the cloud, it's obviously putting their crown jewels, their most important platform of their organization, what they get paid on, how they raise cash, how they invoice their customers. That is the crown jewels application of an organization. So ensuring it's secure is one of the key parts of the process that we take people through, and also clearly support the partners that we work with. To put it into context, going back to those awards, we work extensively across the UK. We are also working extensively across the US and North America. We have partners also in India and Australia. We're relatively new to UAE, and I'll come back to that in a moment or two. We've got a couple of customers there, but we see the opportunity there with regards to the way that that market is opening up, and also the drive and focus that Reddington can put into that to help you as partners. So as I said, we're not a typical partner. We don't do day rate. We don't take people through that process of what would you like? Let's go through a scoping exercise. And actually that whole process historically has been relatively counterintuitive for an end customer. If you're an SMB customer, quite often you sort of don't really know what you need. You probably haven't bought an ERP solution like this before. And actually, arguably, the person who is perhaps being put in pole position for buying it is to a certain extent an accidental tourist. They have a day job. They're a finance director. They maybe also carry the same hat as being the IT manager, because unfortunately they didn't sit down when somebody said, who wants to be the IT manager? And they got left carrying that baby. They don't necessarily know what they need. They probably haven't bought a solution like this in the last 5 years. So instead of taking them through an arduous process where, in the traditional sense, you would look to expand on their requirement, make it perhaps as big as possible so you could sell them as much as possible, we take a different approach. Fixed price, fixed outcome. We in effect say, actually, this is what we call a minimum viable product. This is use the software as it's been designed out of the tin and use it in that way. And as part of our accounting model, we deploy best practice as part of that process. So in other words, we're saying, rather than asking you what you want and perhaps you don't really know fully, we'll ask you some of the key things that you need, and then we'll guide you and take you on a journey and say, actually, this is best practice. This will also mean that the solution will probably be around 30 to 40% of the price of a traditional type project. It also makes it easy for people like yourselves to sell that through to the end customer. So I'm acutely aware, and apologies, I'm not sure if this resonates in UAE in the same way that it does in some of the other countries. It's just a bit of fun. We talk about the elephant in the room, i.e. what's the question that I guess is possibly on all of your lips as part of this. It all sounds epic, but really, how does it work? And fundamentally, what happens to the license revenue? Well, this is kind of the good part. It's yours. You keep all the license revenue. It's your customer. You bill the licenses. You keep the rebates, margins, everything as agreed with your contract with Reddington. We're not taking the customer. Customer's yours. There's no referral fees. It's your customer. You buy the licenses. You bill the licenses. But what you then need to do is then buy two other things. And this is where our packs come into play. So these are examples of our packs. Apologies, they're in dollars at this point in time. And this really gives you an understanding as to how we approach this deployment model. We have different packs that deliver different levels of functionality. To give you an idea, if you need functionality that's in the Plus pack, you need to have bought the basic pack beforehand. So for example, with stock, which is in the middle of the screen, if you're a business that has stock, so you have potentially a warehouse with things in it, you buy things in, you maybe do something to them and then sell them for a margin, you'll need the stock pack. If, for example, you then have multiple warehouses, you'll need stock plus. So you buy stock basic and add stock plus to it. So these packs are like Lego brick. It's very easy to add them together. There's a few that are intrinsically linked together, and there are a few other special ones that we keep in the back cupboard, for want of a better word. There's a lot of flexibility in how we deliver these, but broadly speaking, we're doing everything that they need in this pack. Set them up, import the data, train them, get them going, all done, know how long's a piece of string, all in. And very easily, when you're looking from a sales model perspective, it's very easy to position this to an end customer. In fact, as a seller, I don't really necessarily need to know the detail of dimension reporting or consolidation. I just need to be able to position that and put it in front of an FD or finance director of an organization, an SMB, who will know that they need that, or not, as the case may be, because that's things that they're in the terminology that they're used to in their day-to-day job. So firstly, they buy the packs. Secondly, they then move on to, and we have a Kickstart offering, which is a very quick, quite often we'll get people live in a week. It's very simple, very locked down. There are things in here that basically enable an SMB business to get going very, very quickly and get them up and running. But also then they have a support offering. So we offer different levels of support, which then runs alongside the license. So the fees for the packs are one-off. In other words, they pay the fee, it's a one-off fee that gets them up and running. The support is a monthly subscription that runs alongside the licenses. So they pay this and they can choose, and there's a number of options, again, making it very easy, very menu driven. So being able to position this in front of your customers is pretty straightforward. We know that when we help and guide those people, actually these 8 key points are what many SMBs are currently suffering with. They know particularly that their reporting is poor. Their systems often don't talk to everything. They quite often just want everything Microsoft. They know that if they have everything Microsoft, it's in Microsoft's cloud. It all hangs together around Active Directory. It all is one bill from a licensing perspective. And they don't have multiple silos of data, which for many of those organizations is something that as they have grown, they've ended up with things they bought on credit cards, things they bought and then people have left. Actually having a consolidated IT strategy, a digital transformation strategy based on Microsoft technology is something that they all aspire to, because it fundamentally makes it simpler. It means they don't have lots of pieces of integration and bespoke, and they can grow and scale as they wish. So we talk a lot about channel as a service. Some of the things we're doing with Reddington, some of the things we will look to do with you as partners as we move into the future is really around helping you understand what does that ecosystem look like? How can we help you land new customers? There's also a big legacy of customers who are using the on-premise Microsoft tools, things like Navision and Great Plains. There's a huge market opportunity, particularly taking people from platforms like Sage and QuickBooks that have really seemed to have missed the cloud journey story. Their platforms are at the end of their life to a certain extent, and their cloud messaging is often quite fragmented. Sage particularly often talk about one of the key selling points being that their product integrates with Office 365. But actually, when you look at Business Central doesn't integrate with Office 365. Business Central is embedded in Office 365. It's a whole new level of embedded. It's not even a kind of clunky integration with some middleware. It actually is in Office 365. It works natively within Outlook. It uses the AI machine learning tools within Outlook. So when you kind of look at one of the main competitive platforms presenting one of arguably their biggest selling point as being something that is actually front and center right in Business Central's arena, then you kind of know that they're grasping at straws a little. We also see that helps you grow your existing customers. It helps drive your CSP. Fundamentally, the license is yours. You're going to drive your own CSP revenue. It reduces your churn. It also allows you to drive the things that perhaps you're more comfortable with, Office 365 and Azure. But also it allows you to potentially build out your conversations, expand your own ecosystem, start to have business-led conversations instead of just IT. Move out of that IT world and move into the C-suite and talk to the finance director, the managing directors. Have a more business-led conversation, which will lead to other things, data and AI and Power Platform. So the things that Reddington and ourselves will look to help you with into the future are things like demand generation. We can help identify in your customer base who is the best fit for this. Microsoft very kindly offers something called a Cloud Ascent data. That data will allow us to help pinpoint in your own customer base who you could probably sell this to most effectively. We can help with the sales training and some of the readiness and the pre-sales and help guide those customers into which packs they need. But fundamentally also then we're doing the delivery. We do the delivery, we deliver the packs, we deliver the support on an ongoing basis. And that then gives you that capability, and we can fold that support into your own support networks depending on your scale and your preference. So if you want to be first line to the customer and then offload accounting and ERP issues to us, that's fine. We tend to speak directly to the end customer from the get-go, and then quite often fold in behind your first line support to those customers. So as I come to wrap up, these are the kind of things to look out for, things like people on Xero, Sage, QuickBooks, Infor, Sun Systems. There's also other platforms that are more specific to UAE, things like Tally, for example. But fundamentally, it's for many of these organizations, it's the fact that they're looking to grow. It's the fact that they have reached an end point with their own solution. They need to understand how they can bring the rest of their digital transformation up to stream. And actually, for many of them, particularly those with Office 365, their current ERP accounting solution is the oldest platform they have in their business. It's also the one that's going to hold them back the most. It's the one that's going to prevent them being able to transform, to grow, to engage their customers more, to empower their employees and to optimize their operations. So we're here to help. I'm conscious of time. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Feel free to email us, obviously contact through Reddington. As per the conversation, I'm based in the UK. Now I'd like to hand back to Dharmesh, I think I'm handing back to. And I haven't seen any questions in the IM window as yet. Apologies if I've missed any, but very nice to meet you all and look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for your time. Now, before we, I will just take another 5 minutes just to explain to the partners about the overall engagement. So let me just give a second. Yeah. So as Robert and Maureen has explained, we are looking into this engagement in 4 stages. Connect and qualify, nurture and present your offer, overcome objection and close opportunity, and at the end of the cycle, it's product and service fulfillment. So how do we go about this? So shortly after this event, we will be sending you a template which you can forward it to your customers We will send it to all the partners, which will capture the attention opportunity from your customer side. What we are looking in terms of the stage 2 is, the partners. Example, in stage 1, after you are connecting with your customers, there is an interest, and then you have to come back to Redington. We will align you with Robert and his team, and also share with you the pricing of Business Central. From Robert's side, they will be helping you guys closing the opportunity if there is any pre-sales training required for your sales team in order to close the opportunity. Robert and his team will be happy to help you guys. And at the end of the day, the partner is still transacting with Redington on our CloudCox portal to provision the licenses for the professional services that Robert showed a few minutes ago, and the managed services if required by the customer. Now, what are the call to action? Again, like I said, the first thing first, we have to go back to your customer base, identify opportunities for Business Central. Like I said, we will be helping you guys with email templates that you can readily share with your customers. I have also, I believe I have already reached out to a few partners, and if they need any enablement directly from Bam Cloud IT, we are happy to support you guys. What we are doing in next action is we are planning to have at least 2 through partner events, where let's say in the first stage, when you have sent the emails to your customers, and if you see there is a good traction building up, we can exclusively do an event with your customers. And in that, we will have some special offers for your customers to close the opportunity in a given time frame. From Redington, we have a very exclusive promotions going for Dynamics365. As you can see on the right side of the slide, we are giving almost 300% cashback and on the first month bill, or 30% cashback on the annual bill. It's a massive discount that we are giving to our partners. Also, for a rebated partner, I wanted to also highlight that Business Central is part of the global strategic product part of that. So as a rebated partner, you get more rebates when you sell Business Central. With that, we are done with our slides. If there is any question for me, for Robert, please feel free to ask. So thank you guys. Thank you once again. And we look forward for your participation in this engagement. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you very much.